Greetings and welcome, everybody. I wanted to get on and just do a short transmission on the energies of the Pisces full moon because this is, like all of the new moons, actually this year, a massive new moon. And, why do I say that? I say that because um, we have every new moon and full moon this year is happening either at the 13th degree for full moons or the 28th degree for new moons this month. So this means that like all of our new moons are going to be at that 28th degree, which is right before the culminating 29th, 30th degree of each sign. So the end of each sign. And we have had planets hanging out in and around those areas. Namely, we have Uranus right now at 28 degrees Taurus, which is making a sextile to the Pisces new moon. And then we've got Neptune and Saturn at the beginning degrees of Aries. We have Pluto at the beginning degrees um, of Aquarius still. And so every time we're having a new moon, they're sort of getting plugged in where the new moons are making contact with these bigger outer planetary shifts that we have all seen and all been engaging in. And so you what's important to know about this new moon in particular? Some things that I think, just aside from the fact that it's at this end degree, is that like this degree in and of itself is the uh, one of the culminating degrees of the zodiac, right? When we think about the zodiac beginning at 0 degrees Aries. We've made this trip now all the way around the zodiac through the signs to Pisces. And now we're in this like last degree. And Pisces is already a sign of deep dissolution, where we are in a completely undifferentiated space. It is the liminal realm. It is the dream realm, the realm of pure potentiality, the one of the ways we can understand Pisces is to think of, an ocean, like pretend you're dropped in the ocean and it's a gray, cloudy day and you can't see the horizon line. Like the horizon and the sky are sort of melting together and you can't look around and find a landmark to hasten yourself to. It is a groundless place, a place where there is no anchoring. In the tarot, the moon card relates to the realm of Pisces. And this is sort of that, again, the undifferentiated. It is that kind of liminal dream world within the psyche where the language is symbolic, not linear or representative, but it's non-representative. Um, there's a lot of, because Pisces is a water sign, there's a lot of feelings and emotions here. And we almost become sensory adepts in this space, right? Where we're relying on our senses to give us information versus getting information from the linear 3D world, right? And so our new moon, which is going to flavor the month ahead, begins in this kind of very swirling primordial void-like soup. And it also is an ending. Like it is pointing to a place in the zodiac where we are ending things, not beginning them, right? The beginning comes at the equinox, which is just a few days away from now when the sun crosses over that Aries point, and emerges in that place of rebirth and revitalization. And Aries is such a beautiful sign. It's the sign of new beginnings and pioneering spirit and pioneering energy. It relates to the energy of the Fool card in the tarot, that like taking your first triumphant step out onto a new path, a new journey, right? So that's Aries energy. Pisces is tying up loose ends, right? It is, what we need to put aside, what we need to put down, what ending needs to happen before we can, step through that 0 point of Aries and emerge sort of triumphant on the other side, ready to build because we've set down the baggage. And so I have called this a new moon of endings, not beginnings, right? Like, so this is a moon cycle in which we would be best to really listen deeply to what wants to go, what is ready to be released, what is ready to dissolve. And you may feel that energy. In alchemy, Pisces is the realm of dissolution. That's a stage of alchemy. And things that dissolve generally do so gently. Like where it's sort of like the tide going out into the ocean, where things are just sort of like falling out of your grasp, right? Or something is just like coming to a natural conclusion point, right? And where in your life, and this requires a skill, an adeptness, right? And this is why the sensory adept is such a good archetype for the Pisces new moon. It requires that like deep inner listening to really feel like what things in our life have come to a natural conclusion. I mean, maybe they'll be reborn in a new iteration of themselves, so it's not like the whole thing is going away, but like whatever is crystallized in form, Pisces will begin to dissolve, right? And a lot of times our natural inclination in those cases is to grasp, to grab on, to need to know, right? I've written a piece about Pisces for a group that I'm facilitating, and one of the things we talked about is this idea of living the questions, right? And what it means to be a contemplative person in spirituality. Like the contemplative path is a real path, right? And it's governed by the planet Saturn. And Saturn just spent 2.5 years in Pisces. And I've really watched as the contemplative path has made inroads into different spiritual scenes and in ways that I had never seen before. And I always thought like, oh, that's a really nice byproduct of Saturn in Pisces, but Pisces as well, right? Like where are we able to bring that spirit of contemplativeness, of contemplation to this new moon so that we can really see and feel within us what is ready to let go of, to open our hands, right? To, have the tide come in and take the sandcastle we built and take it out again, right? My teacher likes to use this imagery, right? Because, it reminds us of impermanence and the nature of change. And this moon really is about these sort of like deeper endings, these world endings, these archetypal endings, these endings within our psyche. And the other thing that I think is really beautiful about this new moon in particular is there is this reminder before we sprint off to the next new thing that we are already whole and complete as we are now, right? And so I know so many of us have been on a path of evolution and growth and personal betterment um, and healing and all of those things. And this new moon, what it's saying to me is really like we can let all of that has a grasping energy to it, in my view. It is, like I need to be better. I need to evolve. Somewhere out there in the future is a better me. If I were only healed, that has the energy of Mars, Aries, power over. Like we're powering over our own um our own evolutionary process, our own process of blossoming, right? And what this new moon reminds me of is that one of the things that we can integrate before the zodiac and all of the energy moves towards this energy of new beginnings on the other side of the equinox, that we can remind ourselves that we are whole and complete as we are now. Like there's nothing more to heal. There is not like the healing will come as we live, right? It will come as we live into our own healing, right? Our own personal tending, right? That there's nothing more that needs to be added here. That we are already templated and everything we need has already arrived. Of course, we can invite invitations that support our journey. I'm not saying at all that like those beautiful very feminine goals of evolution and betterment aren't worthy, but that we can do it from a place where we are already whole. Like we know that we are perfect and innocent and good and complete as we are already. Like this is already perfect. And this for me brings up one of the key things. So on my in the Venus path, and for those of you who follow the Venus cycle, Venus is now going to, on the 20th of March, move into the root chakra gateway of ascent, right? So now she's rising in the night sky. She is the evening star. She meets with the moon as the moon is waxing, like getting bigger, right? So this is the kind of waxing side of her journey. It's where she's expanding. And I love expanding as an anecdote to this idea of healing and evolving. Like, no, we are expanding, right? To be able to hold more, to hold different iterations of ourselves, to have more compassion for the angry part or the hurt part or the wounded part. Like all of those are welcome here, right? And this is Piscean energy, and it very much speaks to the issue, right? That's at the heart of the root chakra where Venus will be making her gateway on the 20th. And really the heart of the root chakra is, do I have the right to be here, to take up space, to be in this one incarnation now, right? Like that's sort of the crux of it. Like, am I safe to really claim this life and myself as I am now? That's the root chakra. And it's so interesting um, that the root chakra is going to be happening right on that equinox point, right as the sun sort of in between Aries and and Pisces, and we get that energy of endings and beginnings right in there, right? And so can we come into this new moon and this new Venus gateway really truly with the template of wholeness, of carrying the void within us, of being inside the womb of all potentials first, and then stepping onto the Aries path, onto the path of the new beginning, right? Can we carry through? Because that's what evolution is. Any ending is still going to take with it as we move forward. Everything we are, everything we've learned up until that point, we're going to bring that with us, even inside of an ending. Apologies. Um, so yeah, that is the essence or the spirit of the energy that we are sitting in, right? And we've just moved through eclipse season, and so this new moon is sort of also closing the door on the eclipses that we just had. I mentioned at the beginning of this talk that Uranus is in a sextile, exact sextile to this new moon. And so, what we could be looking at or looking for is Uranus is all about the energy of awakening, right? That kind of idea of Kundalini rising and coming out of the third eye. In some systems, not my own system, but in some systems, Uranus sits at the crown chakra. In my system, I use the sun here for illumination, but Uranus also being associated with awakening can absolutely be a substitute for the crown chakra. So it's this idea, sudden revelation, sudden explosions of, um, emancipatory energy, energy that emancipates us, that frees us, that liberates us. And so we can look forward to, as we are sitting in contemplation, whether we sit and we meditate, or maybe you're more like me and you need to be walking and, like I'm not a great silent meditator. But whatever it is that we're doing that is part of our contemplative practice, that is part of our deep listening practice, be open for a sudden flash of insight to come in because it's very much um, on the cards for this new moon. And as the new moon chart is the chart for the month, that could be ongoing throughout the month. And then we've also got Saturn and Neptune just on the other side of the Aries point. So, sort of in conjunction with this new moon. And again, Saturn crystallizes things. He brings structure. He also brings limitation, as you've probably heard, but he brings structure. And Neptune is all about like what we're dreaming into, especially spiritually. So this is a beautiful time to also be using that Neptunian Piscean energy of being able to dip into the creative, the deep aesthetics of things, the glamour. I mean, and I don't mean glamour as in glamour magic. I know some of you who follow me, I use glamour magic as a word quite often, but even just glamorizing something is a Neptune thing, right? So we can be looking at, as we see so many in the outpicturing of these old structures crumbling, of things coming to light, of this mass revelation that the collective is going through, and it's been accelerating. We've been seeing this kind of revelation happening since the pandemic, and it just continues to accelerate. And so we see more and more of, behind the curtain, like the Great Oz, right? Like Dorothy and her in Wonderland. Or no, that's Alice in Wonderland. Sorry, Dorothy in Oz. That's the place. As we're being able to see beyond that curtain, it's not enough to just peek and go, "Oh my God, what's there?" But it is up to us as priestesses, as visionary women, to be thinking about and dreaming into what can we build? What are we ready to bring as the anecdote, as these structures fall, to seed the new beginnings. And so that's definitely the energy that Neptune and Aries at the beginning of the Aries point brings. Now on the flip side, like as a shadow feature of that, there is absolutely Mars is the god of war. Aries is ruled by Mars. And so we see this war. We see a lot of Neptune on the shadow side can bring confusion, illusion, delusion, disillusionment. And so we see a lot of like, and Mercury is still retrograde until the 20th, and he'll stay in Pisces until the 15th of April. So there is a lot of murkiness around information. It doesn't feel like we're getting the truth about some um, of the out picturing, like all of that's happening on the big screen sort of feels like, it can all be an illusion, right? And so it is so interesting to have this revelation happening and at the same time this, and I would say it's synthetic, right? It's not necessarily like an organic confusion. It's like this orchestrated murkiness happening at the same time. And of course, because in astrology, everything is holistic and there are dualities, right? So they're two sides of the same coin. So we're seeing the truth and we're also being hit with a lot of illusion. And we have to find, the skill of the priestess is equanimity, and how do we walk the sort of the tightrope in between the two and stay connected to the truth of our being, to the truth of what we know about the world and what we know about people, and the truth of our inherent goodness and our inherent and innocence and the inherent innocence of everyone else around us for the most part, right? For the most part, most human beings are just inherently innocent, and some of the murkiness that I feel cropping up in the collective is speaking to some ideas about how, people are guilty just because of their skin color or their race, or who their family member was, or their lineage and things like that. Like no, we really need to anchor into the truth of our inherent goodness and the inherent goodness of our fellow humans. And that feels like a very apt message coming from the stars right now. So I didn't want to make this too long. I just wanted it to be a deep enough dive that you felt like you really got the energies of the collective. And I will leave it there for you all. It's so nice to touch in with you guys and connect. I'm Damascena Tennis, and you can find me at that name on Facebook. I post there quite a lot, and I look forward to meeting new people who come my way. Thank you.